So today I'm talking about a Kia with the P0136 code, what it is, and how you go about fixing it. So what is a Kia P0136 code? Well, it's an O2 sensor circuit malfunction, bank 1 sensor 2. And what does this mean? Well, the onboard computer uses oxygen sensors located on the exhaust to know how much oxygen has been burnt off during combustion, and it's seen a problem with one of these, so it had to be troubleshooted to know why. And bank 1 is always the side of the engine with the number 1 cylinder, and sensor 2 is always the second sensor going down on the exhaust. And some possible causes of this, well, it could be a bad oxygen sensor, it could be in the wiring, could be a bad connection, and possibly a blown fuse. And so the first thing to do when you get this code is to go locate the bank 1 sensor 2 oxygen sensor. Since there can be some differences, and there can be multiple sensors, but quite commonly there's 2, but just keep in mind there can be more. And so it's always a good idea to get a diagram for the oxygen sensors on the exhaust for your particular Kia. But 2 is very common, and basically what's going on with these is you'll have sensor 1, which is before the catalytic converter, and it's also called the upstream, and then you'll have sensor 2, which is after the catalytic converter, and also called the downstream. And so the first thing to do is go locate this bank 1 sensor 2 oxygen sensor. And this can be placed a little bit differently. They'll either be after or right on the catalytic converter. So this usually means that they're up and underneath the vehicle. Sensor 1 quite often is up towards the top of the vehicle, but sensor 2 is going to be down farther somewhere on the exhaust. Here's an example of a 2015 Kia Optima. The sensor 1 is up here, and here's the sensor 2. It's after the catalytic converter. So the first thing to do is locate this sensor 2 oxygen sensor. And so once you locate it, the next thing to do is go check out the wiring real good. Be sure it's plugged in. Be sure there's no issues going on there. And basically just keep in mind that anything wrong with the wiring, an open, short, bad connection, is going to cause the same problems as a bad oxygen sensor. And also keep in mind this is going to be on a fuse. There'll be a fuse box inside the engine compartment, and there'll be a fuse inside there for these. So for example, right here you got sensor 1, which is downstream O2 sensor, and upstream O2 sensor, and it's right over here. If this fuse was to blow, then you would have an error on that circuit. So just something to keep in mind. So if you go through and check out the wiring, that all looks good, there's no blowing fuses or anything like that, then very likely that sensor has failed and is going to need to be replaced. And they're not high cost parts or nothing. They usually range around $30, $40, $50 or so. So most people would go and replace them. You can test it if you wanted to. There's some different methods for that. There's some good YouTube videos on how you go about testing them if you wanted to. But very likely at this point, if there's nothing wrong with the wiring and no blown fuse, then that sensor just needs to be replaced. And there is something to keep in mind that some of these require a special tool to get back in since they have that wire. Not always. Sometimes you can get them out without the special tool. See, for example, here to remove it, you could cut the wire, use a deep well socket to get it out, and then when you put the new one in, just use an open-end wrench. Sensor 1, you almost do need them because they're recessed into a little hole, but sensor 2, quite often, you can sometimes get away without using it, but it is something to keep in mind. You might want to go and look just in case, because there is a special tool available for these to get them back in since they have that wire. And so that's basically it. I just wanted to give a real quick brief overview of how you go about fixing a Kia with the P0136 code. If you have anything to add, please comment down below. If you have any questions, ask me and I'll try to answer them. If this video helps you, please click like, please click subscribe, and have a good day.